All right, so I'm getting a little late start to this video. I'm in the process of changing the drum room around. And if you've watched my previous drum videos, the drum set was in the middle of the room here. It was taking up the entirety of this room. It's an 8x10 platform that it sits on, and it was literally taking up so much space in here, but it was really good because I could maneuver around the drums with the camera angles. I had a lot of freedom because the initial reason for this room was to do drum videos. But as time went on, I started teaching. And then I incorporated a student drum set in here, and my drum set was taken up to about right here in the room, and I had this tiny little space that I can kind of shimmy through to get between my drum set and the student drum set. Okay, and it was becoming inefficient because I was tripping over cords and stands and all sorts of stuff. And I also had my live stream set up between me and the students, so I was always having to take the monitors down and move them and go back and forth. It was a lot of cleaning up, and it was inefficient. So I started getting a little stressed out, and I couldn't figure out. I was like, I had to do something to change the efficiency here. So we took the drum set from the center of the room and put it onto that back wall, and that's where my recording setup was. It was on that side, and we just kind of swapped the two, right? Had to change the cords out and all that stuff. All right, but what I'm doing now is, since I had to change the room out, I had a nice track lighting above the drum set that was isolating the lighting on the kit, so that the room was not lit up, and I was able to saturate the room the walls with color and not light. But now, because we moved it, I have my drums against this very dull wall, and I have an overhead light that I use for teaching, and I didn't have that isolation of light that was allowing the light or the colored lights from my Govee lights. That just sounded like gibberish, but whatever. But what we're doing here is I just got some new lights that are gonna work really cool. I'm excited for them. I got these, you can see them right here. I got these bi-colored lights, and I'll show you, they're really cool. They got flaps on them to isolate the lighting. So I'm gonna turn the overhead lights off, right? I got two of them. See, you can see how much those lights were lighting up the walls and creating this really ugly yellow color, honestly. It was just driving me nuts. Okay, the walls just, not working. All right, so this is really cool. I got this, they're bi-color. Like I said, we can add some, make it more cool looking with that kind of bluish tone, or we can add that sunlight effect and really bring it out. And I like this, I've never had this, but I like it for the cymbals. It really brings out that brass look of the cymbals, right? Okay, so I'm excited for these. And the cool thing is that I'm gonna take those and we're gonna mount them on the ceiling right above the drum set. I got a second one on that side, you can see. I don't have it on right there. Okay, those are gonna be right above the drum set, probably on the sides of the light here. Yeah, all right. And it's gonna really isolate that drum set and allow the Govee lights that are on the two panels to really saturate that wall. And then here in the next couple minutes when it gets delivered, because offer delivery is, I'm getting some studio foam, and I'm gonna create a cool little design over here and probably add some space to it, kind of checkered. So we're gonna have the charcoal gray panels with a little bit of wall space in between them, so that the room's gonna have that saturated color, but it's gonna be kind of designed from the panels having their own design and space in between them. So I'm really excited about it. I think it'll add some depth to the background with the lights and everything. I'm really excited for these new videos to come out. So that's the deal, getting those up on the ceiling and such. Oh, and same thing here. We're gonna take these condenser microphones, and I'm gonna try to get those on the ceiling as well. Get some floor space, or save some floor space, and I can also maneuver around the kit a little more with camera angles, and I have a pole in the way and such. All right, really excited for it. I think it's gonna come out with some cool videos. I did some scratch takes yesterday. The videos came out really cool. All right, so on top of that, I think that's about it. But what's gonna happen is I'm gonna get to work here, put this studio together, and then I'm gonna give you a full rundown, and I'll show you what the new lighting and a little bit of drumming looks like with this new style. And then I'll give you a little tour of the hardware and what's going on behind the kit, you know, the pedals and such, the lighting I have on the pedals and things like that. So let's get to it. All right, we're back with the final studio setup. Construction's all done. I am super happy with the outcome. I think it looks amazing. I love that backdrop. I love the convenience of everything being on the ceiling. So if you remember earlier in the video, that back wall was completely plain. cords hanging and such, very boring. But putting those studio panels on there added that traditional look with the studio panels, but also gave it that depth. And then you have those lights kind of saturating in between those panels to add that depth and color. Really like it a lot. And then the convenience of having the overheads and the lighting on the ceiling, I love it. Can't get enough of that one. That is my favorite part. So I'm gonna give you a little closer look of it to show you exactly what I did. And you can get a real appreciation of this. And hopefully you can get your studios going the same way. But check it out. Full view here. I love it. The color, the depth, everything. Got the overheads and the lighting up there. Got my camera up there. So, got those studio panels, but my favorite part here was these overheads. I've been trying to get those on the ceiling for so long. I just didn't want to, I had to like take the two halves of my drum set. I left the bass drums and such in the middle, but I had to like move everything, and I just didn't want to. I don't like moving my drum set. But hanging off this ceiling mount here, took the original tops from the stand, so I still have that maneuverability of a traditional stand, but without that bar and the floor space being in the way, and it really made room for angle, so I could, didn't have that black bar blocking the views. So we also took the cords and we wrap them up and through the ceiling or across the ceiling with some hooks, making it nice and clean, and I drag it down to the back of the studio where we plug into the interface back there. Very convenient, very clean. And I do the same thing with all my mics because my mics are always on drums here, right? We basically wrap the cords here and I create this nice fat loom right here so that all the cords are kind of tucked away in the corner, nice and clean, except for this giant mess back here, which nobody sees it, so who cares? All right. So with that, I also have the lights on the ceiling, which I'm excited about because being up there allowed me to close off those shutters and really isolate the kit, just get those cymbals shining as well as those toms popping, right? And I do the same thing with the cords. We're running it up and back down this side panel plug into the wall. You don't really see that in the video, so it's cool. Very happy with this. So I'm gonna give you a little rundown of the studio and how I go about getting some of these, how I basically have it plug and play, ready to roll. So it's very convenient, easy for me. So I'm gonna turn the lights on here and you can see I have this is my audio PC. I run two PCs. My audio one, which is a laptop, which I have my 8-channel interface, my 8-channel preamp, so I have 16 channels total, and it just runs into Cubase, which is, and I have a template set up with all my EQs and compression and such. And I'll get more into that in a future video where we get a little more in-depth of my recording process, what I actually do, bouncing it down and putting it into my other PC, which is down here, which is where I do all my video editing. And the reason I have two PCs is because when I first started live streaming, I was trying to do it out of one, but I kept having this distortion in the audio. I think it was just overrunning the CPU with the video and audio being live. So I basically run the audio to a second interface right here, which plugs in directly into the computer, and that's how I get my audio to go live for live streaming and such. But very simple. Quick plug and play. Like I said, everything's set up ready to roll all the time. And I'll show you my camera setup as well right now because those are mostly plugged in all the time, just ready to roll, okay? So let me get this lighting down here. I don't like the light, there you go. Okay, so this is my favorite angle. This is my main angle where you get the front view or a little bit of a side. Camera coming right there. And we have a secondary one with the same angle, just from the other side of the kit, right? Give a little bit of change of view. Now, my favorite view has always been the overhead shot where you get that full wide view and you can see all the ambidextrous stuff they do with the left and the right and the way the hands move across the kit. And my other favorite, because you have to see what I do with my feet, is the foot cam, which I'm using that camera right now, but you get the full view of the feet. You can see I got the double bass and the double hi-hats here. It's very much my favorite view. I love doing the 4 pedals. So this is the kit, and what I love about this new room is the space that it's created. You can see my student drum set over there. This gives a lot of depth, but I'm also able to communicate with my students across the room, demonstrate while they play. And my next project is to set up my student kit the same way my studio is. I want the lighting over here, the overheads, or the colored lighting over here, the overheads with the overhead lighting as well, and I want this pre-mic'd all the time so that my students can record and get in the process of recording, as well as get some videos for themselves, and if they want to start their own social media and what, and I can promote my students as well. Very excited for that. I think it's a really cool setup. So much more to come with this studio. But in the next one, again, like I'm gonna get into show you exactly what I do for my recording setup and how I go about making my videos and such. But thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. This studio's been a lot of work. It's been years, actually. I'll eventually post some videos of my early studio, which was terrible, and all the stuff I was doing with my ambidextrous coordination, which was terrible as well. So stay tuned. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, like the video, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks.